Narrator voice, soft and slow. She, close your eyes. Now let the weight of the day fall gently off your shoulders. Inhale and exhale. You are safe. You are home. And now we begin our journey to the quietest corner of the world. Far away, nestled in a green velvet valley, surrounded by misty hills and whispering woods, there stood an ancient stone chapel. It was small, forgotten by time, and lit every evening by the soft glow of a single candle. And in that candle's golden light lived a cat, not just any cat, a pale, silent, moon-eyed creature with fur as soft as twilight. They called her Whimsy. She had lived in the candle chapel for longer than anyone could remember. The chapel bell no longer rang. The priest had long since moved on. The benches were dusty, the altar covered in moss. But every evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest turned to shadow, one candle, always the same candle, would flicker to life, and beneath its glow, Whimsy would sit. Sometimes she sat upon the old wooden pew, sometimes near the stained glass, its soft colors painting her fur. Sometimes she curled at the altar, where once names were whispered in prayer. No one knew who lit the candle. No one dared to enter. It was said that those who came seeking answers in the night would find only dreams. Sweet, swirling dreams. And so the chapel stood in quiet stillness, and Whimsy kept watch. One rainy evening, the wind howled through the hills, and the trees bowed like worshippers. And through the storm, a girl came walking. She wore a wool coat 2 sizes too big and shoes too thin for the mud. Her name was Lena. She had been walking for days. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that something was pulling her gently, like thread, through the wild and the wind. And there it was, the candle chapel. It wasn't grand, it wasn't warm, but the light inside was inviting. Lena pushed open the wooden door with a soft creak. It smelled of lavender and old stone. There, at the altar, sat Whimsy. Her silver eyes blinked slowly. Once, then twice. Lena stood still. "Hala!" she whispered, barely a sound. Whimsy did not move. Lena stepped forward and sat on the dusty bench. The candle flickered, and for a moment the world felt still. Nature sounds began. Light rain tapping the windows, wind whistling outside. Lena closed her eyes. She had never felt peace like this. It was as if the chapel had wrapped around her like a blanket, and the cat was keeping guard. Time melted. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, and Lena began to dream. She dreamed of warm bread and laughing voices. She dreamed of fields of daisies and the scent of sun-warmed earth. She dreamed of safety. And in every dream, Whimsy was there, silent, still, watching, like a guardian, like an old friend she had always known. When Lena woke, the candle was still burning. The rain had stopped, and the air felt new, soft and golden. Whimsy stood at the doorway now, tail gently swaying, as if to say, "Come, child, there is more to see." Narrator voice, soft and slow, gentle like night wind. Whimsy turned and walked slowly into the misty trees beyond the chapel. Lena hesitated for only a moment, then followed, her thin shoes quiet on the damp earth. The forest beyond was dark, but not frightening. It felt ancient, like it remembered every footstep ever taken beneath its boughs. Leaves whispered softly overhead. Owls blinked from high branches, and the air smelled of moss and starlight. Whimsy moved gracefully, always just a few steps ahead, never looking back, but never too far. Her silvery tail flicked like a lantern in the shadows. Lena followed silently, her breath soft and steady. She didn't speak. There was no need. The forests understood. After a time, or maybe no time at all, they reached a clearing. In its center was a small, circular pool. Its surface was glassy, still, but glowing faintly from within, as though moonlight had pooled there. Too tired to rise, Whimsy sat at the edge and gazed into the water. Lena knelt beside her, and in the water she saw herself, not as she was tired, muddy, small, but how she used to be. Eyes bright with curiosity, cheeks full of laughter. And then the image shifted, and she saw her mother, her real mother, the one from before everything changed. She was singing, holding baby Lena in her arms. Spinning in a summer field, Lena's throat tightened. Tears came. Not loud or heavy, just quiet raindrops sliding down her cheeks. Whimsy pressed her head against Lena's hand. Warm, steady, real. "Why am I seeing this?" Lena whispered, not really expecting an answer. But the candlelight flickered across the pool, and the image changed again. She saw herself older, standing in a place she didn't recognize. But it felt right there, with children laughing around her. Books, warm lights, a home, and Whimsy always nearby. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a glimpse, a reminder. You are not lost. You are Soft music drifts in, like a lullaby played on wind chimes. Lena sat there for a long time, and when she stood, something inside her had shifted. Not everything made sense, but the ache in her chest was gentler now, quieter. Whimsy stood too, then turned and walked back toward the trees. This time, Lena followed without hesitation. The forest seemed brighter now. Or maybe her eyes had simply adjusted to the dark. She noticed tiny flowers glowing blue near the roots of trees. She heard frogs croaking gently in the distance, and the path beneath her feet felt almost familiar. When they returned to the candle chapel, the door was already open. The single candle still burned, but something was different. Where once the benches were dusty and cold, now they felt softer, warmer. The stained glass shone brighter, casting gentle colors across the floor. The air smelled not just of lavender, but of something new. Fresh bread, maybe, or safety. Lena curled up on the bench, and Whimsy leapt lightly onto the windowsill. Outside, the stars had returned. Thousands of them. Lena closed her eyes once more. This time, her dreams were full of wonder. She dreamt of riding on the back of a fox through a field of glowing mushrooms. She dreamt of building a house made of stories, each brick a memory, each window a laugh. She dreamt of Whimsy, always by her side. And when morning light crept gently through the stained glass window, Lena was still smiling. She sat up slowly. The candle had gone out, but the warmth remained. Whimsy was gone. No paw prints, no sound. Just a single silver hair left on the bench beside her. Lena tucked it into her coat pocket and stepped outside. The forest looked different in daylight. Greener, fuller, alive, but the magic wasn't gone. It was everywhere now. In the wind that brushed her cheek like a mother's hand. In the rustling leaves that whispered stories. In the way her heart felt whole again. She didn't know where she was going next, but she no longer felt afraid. She looked back at the little stone chapel one last time. The quiet door. The place where a candle had burned for someone like her. "Thank you," she said softly. And then she walked on. Narrator voice. Soft, like morning dew on leaves. Days passed. Lena walked through fields of tall grass that tickled her fingertips. She crossed gentle brooks with stones worn smooth by time. She spoke to no one, yet felt less alone than ever before. Each night, she found shelter. A hollow tree, a dry cave, an old barn. And each night, as she lay down to rest, a candle would flicker somewhere nearby. Sometimes in a jar beside her head. Sometimes in the distance, between the trees. Always small, always steady. Always warm, and where the candle burned, Whimsy was never far. She didn't always appear in the open. Sometimes Lena only heard the faintest purr in the wind, sometimes a glimpse of silvery fur in the underbrush. But Lena knew Whimsy was watching, guiding. She began to dream more deeply now, not just of her past, but of things yet to come. She saw doors opening, strangers offering kindness. She saw herself planting seeds. She saw them grow. One evening, the sky turned a deep violet. Stars hidden behind drifting clouds. Lena found herself standing before a twisted iron gate. Beyond it stood a house, crooked tall, with windows like sleepy eyes and ivy clinging to its walls. She felt no fear. The gate creaked open with a sigh. Inside, the air smelled of old books and something sweet. Maybe cinnamon, maybe memory. She wandered through dusty rooms, each one filled with forgotten things. A rocking horse with a frayed mane, a cracked teacup full of marbles, a painting of a woman with eyes like her own, and in the center of the house, a library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, ladders on wheels, books in every color. Lena stood in awe. Then she noticed, in the very center of the room, a cushion, round, faded, warm, and curled atop it was Whimsy. She blinked slowly, as if she had always been there, as if she had been waiting. Lena sat cross-legged beside her. No words passed between them. Whimsy stood, stretched like liquid moonlight, and gently tapped one book with her paw. It fell open, and inside was Lena's name. Not just written once, but again and again. On every page, in every language, in every shade of ink. Lena gasped softly. Each word told a piece of her. Moments she remembered, moments she had forgotten, even moments that hadn't happened yet, but somehow already lived in her heart. She turned the pages slowly, a smile growing, tears soft and quiet. It was her story. It had always been hers, and Whimsy had kept it safe. Soundscape, a page turning, soft purring, wind in distant branches. Lena stayed in the library for what felt like hours, maybe days. She read stories of others too, children who had wandered, like her. Each one had found a candle. Each one had been guided. Some found the chapel. Some never needed to. But all of them had seen the light. Eventually, Lena closed the book. She placed it gently back on the shelf, exactly where Whimsy had pulled it from. And then she knew it was time, not to leave the house, not to return to where she came from, but to go forward to wherever the path now led. She stood, turned to Whimsy, who was already standing at the door. Tail high, eyes knowing. Lena gave one soft laugh. "You always know, don't you?" she whispered. Whimsy blinked. The door creaked open. Outside, the clouds had cleared. The stars had returned. This time, they weren't just twinkling above her. They were shining inside her, and the path forward was lit by 1,000 candles. Each one small, each one steady, each one like Whimsy, a quiet guardian in the dark. Narrator voice, gentle as starlight on water. And so Lena walked, not backward into the world she had left, but forward into a world she was just beginning to know. The forest felt different now. Not darker, not lighter, but aware. Trees leaned gently overhead like wise old watchers. Moss glowed faintly underfoot, guiding her step by step. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. Once, then silence. Whimsy padded softly at her side, her paws making no sound. Together, they walked without speaking, until the path split. To the left, a deep wood, thick with shadow. To the right, a meadow bathed in moonlight, quiet and open. Lena looked at both, then looked at Whimsy. But Whimsy did not choose. She simply sat between the paths, eyes closed, as if to say, "This is yours now." Lena's heart beat gently in her chest. For the first time, she felt it clearly. Choice. Not escape. Not survival, but true, soul-deep choice. She sat beside Whimsy, letting the quiet hold her. And in that silence, she heard something strange. A humming, soft, low, and far away. It vibrated in her chest, like memory. She closed her eyes, and in her mind, the chapel returned. She saw the stained glass, aglow with candlelight. She saw herself younger, smaller, lost, and Whimsy, always Whimsy, in every corner of the dream. never speaking, always guiding. The humming grew louder. Lena opened her eyes. But she wasn't on the path anymore. She was standing in a circle of mirrors, each one tall as a door, carved into ancient stone, 12 of them, facing inward. Each mirror held a version of her. One as a child, holding a wilted flower. One as a teenager, with fire in her eyes. One older, with silver in her braid. Each mirror shimmered like moonlit water, and behind every reflection, a small candle flickered. Lena stepped forward, breath caught. These weren't just memories. There were truths. Pieces of her, scattered across time. Choices made. Choices lost. Dreams that still breathed. In one mirror, she was dancing. In another, she was leaving. In another, she was home. She turned, slowly, stopping at the 12th mirror. This one showed her, as she was now, worn boots, mud-speckled coat, eyes full of stars. And next to her, in the reflection, whimsy. But when Lena looked to her side, the cat was gone. She spun in place. No paw prints, no rustle, no sound, just her and the mirrors. And then a single candle blew out. PF. And the mirror that held it shattered, not with violence, but like mist being swept by wind. One by one, the other candles dimmed. The mirrors faded, until only the 12th her mirror remained. Its candle burned steady. Its reflection stood strong, and Lena understood. She could not walk every path. She could not be every version of herself. But she could be this one, the one who had chosen, the one who had followed the candlelight. She stepped forward, and the mirror became a doorway, soundscape, faint wind, a candle's flame, then silence. Beyond it, a garden, wild and wide and blooming with night flowers, bluebells, moon roses, and silver clover. In the center stood a tree, not tall, not ancient, but alive. Its bark shimmered with words, names, stories etched in glowing script, and at its roots sat Whimsy. Lena knelt beside her. The cat leaned gently against her side, and for the first time purred, long, steady, like a lullaby, made of stars. Lena rested her hand on the tree. The bark was warm, and suddenly she heard everything, not with ears, but with her heart. The stories, hundreds, thousands, more. Every soul who had ever wandered, every traveler who had ever found the candlelight, every dream that had once been lost and found again. The tree held them all, and now it held her. Narrator, voice, soft as breath on glass. And in that moment, with her hand on the living bark, Lena understood. She had never truly been lost, only searching, only waiting for the light to guide her home. The stories whispered through her fingertips like the rustle of wind in ancient pages. She heard laughter and tears, hopes and regrets, names of people she had never known, but somehow loved. And among them all, a name whispered louder. Her own, Lena. Not shouted, not spoken, but as if the earth itself knew her now. She looked at Whimsy, who sat still beside her. The cat's silver eyes blinked once, and in that blink, Lena saw everything. The chapel, the mirrors, the paths, the dreams, the lonely nights, the silent mornings. She saw herself, all herselves, woven like threads into one quiet story. And for the first time, she smiled with her whole soul. "I'm ready," she whispered. Whimsy rose, tail curling, back arching. She stepped forward to the tree and leapt, but she didn't fall. She rose higher and higher, into the air like smoke on moonlight. Her body stretched into light, her eyes turned to stars. And then she was gone, but the warmth remained. Lena stood slowly. The garden felt different now. Still soft, still sacred, familiar, not foreign, not strange, like it had always been inside her. The tree behind her let out a single creak, a sound like old wood stretching in the sun, and from its base, a door appeared, not of wood, not of stone, but of mist. Lena stepped toward it. The garden dimmed. The world shifted. Soft tones. Heartbeat fades. Silence. And then she opened her eyes. She was back in the candle chapel. The candles still burned. The pews still silent. The rain had stopped. Only the hush of early dawn remained. Outside, the first birds were waking. A pale sky stretched over the hills. Whimsy was not there, but a warmth still lived in every corner. Lena sat quietly for a long time, not because she was afraid to move, but because she no longer needed to chase anything. She had found what she didn't even know she was looking for: peace. She stood and walked to the altar, placed her hand gently on the cold stone, and whispered, "Thank you." She turned, opened the chapel doors, and stepped into the morning light. The hills were green again. The mud was soft beneath her feet. And the path, the path was clear. She didn't know where it led, but that no longer mattered. She would walk it with quiet certainty. She would carry the stories with her. She would remember the flame. And though she never saw Whimsy again, every time she passed a quiet chapel, or saw a candle in a window, or heard the hush of wind through old trees, she smiled, because some guardians don't stay. They just show you the way, and then they let you live. And so Lena walked down the soft hillside, through the dew-brushed grass, past trees that remembered her name. The morning was gentle, as if the world itself didn't want to disturb her peace. Birdsong trailed her like a lullaby. She had no map, no destination, but she didn't need one anymore. The path unfolded like a ribbon before her, twisting through woods and meadows she had never seen, yet felt somehow familiar. And somewhere behind her, the candle chapel slept again. Only a faint glow from its tower remained, like a memory you don't want to forget. The day passed softly. Lena wandered without hurry. At noon, she rested beneath an old sycamore. Its shade danced with dappled light. The air smelled of honey and moss. And just when her eyes began to close, a whisper, "Hello!" Lena sat up. From the other side of the tree, a boy stepped out, not much older than her, with wild curls and a satchel full of books. His eyes were soft, like creek water after rain, and in his hand, he held something strange, a small wooden carving of a cat. Not just any cat, it was Whimsy. The ears, the tail, the crescent moon eyes. Lena froze. The boy tilted his head. "You've seen her too?" he asked quietly. Lena nodded. The boy smiled, as if he had waited a long time to meet someone like her. "I dreamed of her," he said, sitting beside her. "She came to me when I was lost, said nothing, just looked, and suddenly I knew where to go." Lena breathed in. Her voice was a whisper. "She doesn't need to speak. Share. Shows you." The boy nodded. "I followed her through a mirror, found a garden." Lena turned to him sharply. "So did I." The two sat in silence. The wind brushed past, stirring the leaves like music. Maybe they had walked different paths. Maybe they had arrived from opposite ends of the world. But Whimsy had found them both, and now they were no longer alone. By twilight, they had lit a small fire. The stars bloomed one by one above them. They shared stories, laughed softly, even cried, not out of sadness, but relief. They were not the only ones carrying those strange, dreamlike memories. The boy's name was Milo. He had found his way to the chapel from a forgotten village beyond the northern peaks. Whimsy had come to him when his home crumbled in a storm. When he had nothing left, she had watched over him. And now, like Lena, he wandered. Not searching for something, but carrying something. A quiet strength. A knowing. Before they fell asleep beneath the stars, Milo asked, "Do you think she was real?" Lena turned to the sky. And there, among the stars, one shimmered just a bit brighter. A soft silver glint. She smiled. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I think she was meant to find us." Milo nodded, and sleep came easily, like it always did after Whimsy. Somewhere far behind them, a candle flickered, and a cat sat silently in the window of an old stone chapel, watching, waiting, and perhaps dreaming too. The morning after Lena and Milo rose with the sun, their fire had died down to glowing embers, and dew sparkled on every blade of grass around them like tiny stars fallen from the night. They didn't speak at first. The silence between them was not empty. It was warm, like a shared dream. Then Milo said softly, "There's a village not far from here. I passed near it once. They say the people there never sleep." Lena turned, curious. "Never sleep," he nodded. "They live under a spell, or a blessing, or a curse. No one knows for sure, but they keep lamps burning all night. No dreams, no candles. Just waiting." The word echoed in Lena's chest. Waiting. She stood and brushed dew from her coat. "Let's go." Milo smiled. Neither of them knew what they would find, but they both felt it. The faintest flicker, like a candle in fog. It took them a day and a half to reach the village. The path twisted through quiet meadows and thick woods, each step taking them deeper into stillness. When they arrived, dusk was settling, and sure enough, the entire village shimmered with lanterns. On rooftops, on trees, even on fence posts. No shadows, no night. The people moved slowly, carefully, eyes tired but unblinking. Lena whispered, "It's beautiful, but strange." They passed a group of children sitting in perfect silence on stone steps, watching moths dance near the lights. No laughter, no yawns, no dreams. Milo asked a woman sweeping her porch, "Why don't you sleep?" She looked at him, but her eyes were cloudy, as if seeing through water. "We used to dream too much," she said softly, "and now we remember too much." Then she turned and walked inside. Lena and Milo shared a glance. That night, they stayed in an abandoned cottage on the edge of the village. Its lantern was lit, dimmer than the rest. As they lay on thin mattresses, Lena turned and whispered, "Do you think this is what happens when the candle never goes out?" Milo was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Maybe dreams need darkness, too." At midnight, something strange happened. The lantern in the cottage flickered just once, and then it went out. Total silence. Then, a purr. Low, soft, unmistakable. Lena sat up instantly. Whimsy. There, on the windowsill. A shape not fully formed. More like shadow and moonlight wrapped together. But the eyes, those silver glowing eyes. It was her. Lena stepped forward, barefoot on the wooden floor. "Why are we here?" she whispered. "What is this place?" The cat blinked slowly, and with her gaze, pointed to a spot on the floor. A loose board. Milo joined her, and together, they pulled it up. Underneath, a small glass jar, sealed. Inside it, a single candle, but unlit. Lena touched it, and warmth spread through her palm. Milo whispered, "Maybe they forgot." Lena nodded. "Then let's remind them." They brought the candle to the center of the village. No one stopped them. People stood at their windows, unmoving. Lanterns flickered above. Watching, Lena held the jar up high. Then whispered a word. One she didn't know she knew. Home, and the candle burst into flame. Not a fire, a glow, soft, golden, real. And the wind sighed. Lanterns blinked. One by one, they dimmed, and from the shadows, the people began to dream, not asleep, but standing there, eyes closed, hearts open. Milo held Lena's hand. Whimsy was gone, but a warmth had spread, not in fur and paws, but in peace, in light, in rest. The village slept for the first time in 100 years, not with closed eyes, but with open hearts. The light from Lena's candle didn't burn like fire. It glowed like memory, like love rediscovered, like a lullaby long forgotten. Now, softly hummed again, all around them. People sat down on porches, doorsteps, grassy patches of earth. They sighed, leaned against one another, and exhaled, as if the weight they had been carrying had finally been set down. Milo looked at Lena. "You did that." Lena shook her head slowly. "No," she whispered. She did. That night, the stars returned to the sky over the village. Stars that had been hidden behind the lantern glow for generations. Lena and Milo lay in a field at the village edge, the candle between them still faintly lit. It didn't go out, but it no longer needed to guide. It was present. Not pushing, not pulling, just there. Lena tilted her head toward Milo. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "how many candles are out there? Like this one, waiting to be found?" Milo thought for a while, then said, "Maybe the candles find us." Lena smiled. Far beyond the hills, in the soft black of night, an owl hooted gently. Then silence, and then a breeze, but not a wind. Something lighter, like music made of mist, and in it, a whisper. Lena sat up. "Milo, do you hear that?" He nodded slowly. They turned to the candle, now glowing faint blue. A new color, a new calling. Whimsy was no longer seen, but she was felt, and her message was clear. There was another chapel, another soul in need, another dream to restore. They left before sunrise. The village, once cursed with wakefulness, now slept peacefully. Its people dreamt of green fields, laughter, and quiet cats curled in sunbeams. As Lena and Milo walked away, not one lantern was lit, just the stars above and a candle between them. They walked until the forest grew denser, darker, deeper, the trees older, the air quieter. Bird song faded, even their footsteps barely made a sound. And there, hidden beneath a curtain of vines, they found a door, not made of wood, but of stone, tall, cracked, covered in moss, etched with carvings no one had touched in 1,000 years. The candle flickered once, and the stone door opened. Inside was not a chapel, a hall, massive, silent, endless. Columns stretched toward ceilings, so high they disappeared into shadow. And in the center, a great pool, still, black, mirror-like. Lena stepped forward. "What is this place?" Milo whispered. "It feels like the place where forgotten dreams go." The candles, light stretched toward the water, and in it, their reflections changed. Lena saw herself younger, scared, looking up at stars from a rooftop. Milo saw himself running through fields, arms wide, chasing fireflies. They weren't just memories, they were lost pieces, and the candle was stitching them back. Bit by bit, Lena leaned closer, and a ripple spread across the water. From the center, a shape rose. At first, it looked like nothing, mist of vapor, but as it solidified, it was a cat, but not Whimsy. Taller, grayer, with golden eyes like dawn. Milo stepped back. The cat's gaze pierced through them. And then it bowed. Not to them, to the candle. And in that moment, Lena understood. There were many like Whimsy, guardians, watchers, keepers of dreams. Each chapel had one. Each path had a guide. And this was another. The golden-eyed cat turned and walked through the shadows. No words, no sound, only an invitation to follow, to continue, to believe. And so they followed. Lena and Milo stepped into the silence, where time moved differently. Not slower, not faster, just deeper. Every footstep echoed like a heartbeat in a dream. The golden-eyed cat led them past the black pool, into a corridor of stone arches carved with symbols neither of them could read. But they didn't need to, because the candle knew. Its light brushed the carvings gently, and in its glow, the stones shimmered, and the stories came alive. They saw children being born beneath starry skies, old women stirring soups made with laughter and herbs, men singing by rivers, cats perched beside cribs, candles flickering in every image, always watching, always waiting. Lena whispered, "These aren't just memories. They're blueprints." Milo nodded, for what the world could be again. The cat stopped. In front of them stood a door made of glass, but not ordinary glass. This one shimmered like it had been woven from spider silk and moonlight. Behind it, shadows swirled. The candle trembled. For the first time since the chapel, its flame looked uncertain. Lena reached out, but the cat placed its paw on her hand. It shook its head. This was not her door. Not yet. Instead, it turned and looked at Milo. He blinked me. The cat said nothing, only stepped aside. The candle floated from Lena's hands and came to rest in Milo's. He looked down at the flame. It was no longer blue. It was gold, like morning light. Lena stepped back. Milo placed his hand on the glass, and slowly the door opened. Inside was fog, so thick he couldn't see more than a few steps ahead. But he walked, and with every step he remembered the night his parents left and never returned, the years he spent pretending to be brave, the ache of loneliness that became so familiar. He forgot. It hurt. But then he remembered Lena. The day he saw her in the square, wild-haired, holding a candle. He remembered whimsy. And the moment he first believed the world could be gentle, tears filled his eyes, and the fog began to lift. In front of him stood a boy, no older than 10, wearing a scarf too long and shoes too big. He was crying. It was him. Milo stepped closer. He knelt and whispered, "You don't have to be strong all the time." The boy looked up and smiled. And in that moment, the fog turned to light, and the door behind him disappeared. Lena ran to him as he stepped out. "You okay?" He nodded, dazed but whole. The golden-eyed cat was gone. Only the candle remained, still burning, but smaller now. "Where did it go?" Lena asked. Milo looked at the empty space and smiled. "I think it finished its watch." They left the hall, back through the forest, now alive with sound. Birds, breeze, distant rivers. Lena turned to Milo. "I think we're the candles now." He tilted his head. She smiled. "People need warmth, light, stories." Milo nodded. "And someone to guard their dreams." They walked on, the path winding beneath them, the trees opening ahead. Somewhere in the distance, a new chapel waited, and perhaps a cat was already watching. That evening, the wind sang low through the trees, not with warning now, but with a lullaby. The stars began to blink in the velvet sky above, and Lena and Milo walked on, toward somewhere they had not seen, but already felt. The world felt softer now, like it, too, had exhaled. Behind them, the candled chapel still stood, though it was no longer just a place. It was a memory etched into every tree they passed, every shadow that curled like a sleeping cat, and as they walked, something glowed faintly in the pouch at Lena's side. She reached in, and there it was. The candle, its flame was no longer high and strong, but calm, flickering like a heartbeat at rest. And it didn't burn down, because now it was a part of her. She turned to Milo. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders relaxed in a way she'd never seen before. "What now?" she asked. He looked up at the sky, then smiled. "We light others." And that's what they did. They passed through sleepy villages, where windows were boarded and hearts closed, and in each one, they shared the flame, not with fire, but with stories, with stillness, with sitting beside someone and saying, "I see you. I've been there. You are not alone." And people began to light candles in their own windows again, not to chase away the dark, but to welcome it. Because in the dark, dreams could bloom. They stayed in no place for long, but every place they left was brighter. The world began to remember itself, and far away, in the woods, other cats began to appear. White ones, gray ones, golden-eyed ones. Some perched on some curled beside sleeping children. They didn't speak. They didn't follow. They simply watched. Just like Whimsy had. Years passed. Lena grew older. So did Milo. And one night, in a town nestled beside a sleepy river, they lit one last candle on a windowsill and said nothing, only smiled. They knew they had done what they came to do. The world no longer needed them to carry the light. It had remembered how to carry its own. And deep in the forest, in the stone chapel, where it all began, a new candle flickered. A soft breeze whispered across the pews. And on the altar, a small kitten stretched, yawned, and blinked up at the stars, shining through the stained glass. A new watcher, waiting for the next lost soul to come home. Soft wind, night insects, candle flickering. Close your eyes. Now, breathe in and out. You've walked far, you've listened well, and now, like the chapel, you too may rest.